Hey guys, as of today in Sword of Xcaliblur, they released the weapon trial level 70 stage, and I did complete the stage. Took me quite a few tries but managed to complete it by round 15, and in this video I'll show the run. But more importantly, also since this is a level 70 run, stats matter a lot, which means that setup is pretty important. So I'll start off with the setup that I used for the stage. You can also use a timestamp in the video description to skip ahead to the battle if you are not interested in the setup. But there are a few key components to it, and I'll cover the key components as I go along. So first off with Cocoa. Cocoa is actually the main healer that I used. The main reason I use Cocoa as a healer and not someone like Inanna is because Cocoa also carry AoE buffs through her signature move, the Iron Pots 2. And in this stage in particular, you need the buffs because one key difference in the level 70 stage is that you are required to carry 5 or more buffs at any time. Anytime that your buffs drop below 5, so 4 or less, you automatically get a debuff that disables any passives that you have. And this includes passives that adds stats, which means that your offense and defense will be significantly neutered anytime your buff count drops below 5. So the Iron Pots 2 itself already grants crit and crit damage as well as a bento, so that in itself is really plenty of buffs. But beyond that, I also gave Cocoa try the pen. Normally I don't equip this, I normally give her Potluck Protector, but in this stage Cover Assist does absolutely nothing, so Potluck Protector is not needed. Whereas for Try the Pen, knockback in this stage is particularly important to get rid of the red color minions that the boss can summon. I'll talk a bit more about the minions on the stage, but suffice it to say, you want to kill off the minions as soon as possible because they carry an AoE defense down aura, which cuts your physical defense by 30%, which is insanely huge. With that aura up, you'll most likely get one-shotted by the boss. The minions can be knocked back, so having a 3-tile knockback is extremely useful in this circumstance. Next up, I guess to no surprise, would be Gloria. I think most people will be using Gloria for this stage. One of the key things about doing the level 70 stage is the difference in stats. That's because your entire party is kept at level 60, whereas you'll be fighting a level 70 boss. And in this game in particular, the difference in attack and defense is pretty critical in how damage is calculated. So what you want to do to make up for the 10 level difference is to stack up as many stat up buffs as possible. Now suffice it to say, of course, it's very important to try to get your gear and turrets to level 60, but also other stuff such as engraving to add stats matter a lot. Key to this would be Gloria, because once she throws down her flag or throws a spear into a flag, that gives an attack and defense aura to the party. Plus, of course, Gloria also has the Longinus Brilliance move, which provides a minor attack up but still attack up buff to everyone, but importantly, this also gives a damage reduction and provides 1 energy battery to the team, which comes in pretty handy. My Gloria is differently spec'd than some other people because I don't really build her for AoE. I'm more defensively oriented with my Gloria, and the main purpose is I just want her to stay around as long as possible. One key thing here would be the redemption of the Judgement Tarot. In my opinion, you should have at least one party member carrying this turret. Doesn't have to be Gloria, but in my case I gave it to Gloria because I think it fits her the best, and everyone else would have key turrets that they want to use anyway. Why is this turret important? Well, that's because it inflicts judgment on the boss, and this increases damage done to the boss by a whopping 10%. May not seem like much, but it is actually quite useful. It also dispels attribute buffs from random enemies, and the boss can actually buff itself. I don't think it can get any of these buffs, but anytime the boss kills any party member, including summon units, the boss gets a free buff. So having this ability to dispel buffs actually does come in handy. Next up would be Ravia. Ravia the Breaker is my main DPS, and I guess many people will also use her as the main DPS here. She doesn't disappoint, as always. She does very good damage through her dash, her Gale Breach into Tropical Cyclone, and that would be the bread and butter key DPS. The key thing here is that you want to be using Tropical Cyclone only when your main buffs are up, so you want ideally Gloria's Flag down, you want Nonowil's Vulnerable up, and you want the Sword of Convallaria Flag, the one from the Tactics up, in order to ensure maximum damage from Ravia. You won't get this all the time, but as long as you try to have buffs up when you do the move, this contributes a great deal of additional bonus damage. Beyond that, Ravia is also a knockback through her basic attack, and in fact you'll see that 4 of my 5 party members have the ability to knock back: Gloria, Cocoa, Ravia, and Maita. Knockback is really key here because the longer the minions stay in battle, the easier it is to lose units, and losing even one unit is pretty detrimental because it gives the boss a buff. Next up is Maita. Now Maita is really optional, but I used her because I already have her built. Maita's role in this battle is the Lightning Rod, aka she's the one that attracts the boss's skill that damages the furthest unit from the boss. The key trinket here would be the Cooling Powder. That's because the attack from the boss will land a healing receive null debuff, and you obviously want to heal this character because that physical attack from the boss does do a pretty decent chunk of damage. Beyond that, I have Maita as defensively built as possible, so I gave her the Hermit Turret, for example, and the Newborn Blade. On hindsight, this isn't the best defensive weapon, but it was one of the first few that I got, so it was one of the first few that I leveled, so that's the one that I used. And she also has a resonance that increases her physical damage resistance. Importantly, I took away Maita's guard. Normally I would give her the guard skill, but like I said, cover assist doesn't do anything on this stage. Bandage is actually a very useful skill in its place, because more often than not, Maita will be out of range for Cocoa to heal, so having Bandage along with her AoE heal ensures that she's self-reliant to top herself up. Her AoE heal does come in handy as well, because when she's in range with the other party members, she can of course provide some supplementary healing, but this also lends 2 more buffs to make up the buff counts that you need. Like I said earlier, you want to have at least 5 buffs or more as often as possible. Last up, I have Nonowil. When I put together my team for the boss, I realized that I don't really have a good debuffer in my party, and for this stage, debuffs help a ton, like I said, to make up for the stat difference between your party and the boss. Nonowil was one of the few units that I have leveled at 60 that can debuff, and her main debuff is the Vulnerable Tree debuff from the Enchanting Shadow skill. The good thing about this though is that because you will have the Flag of Convallaria tactic up almost all the time, you should be able to use this over and over again to land the debuff on the boss before it wears off, ensuring near constant uptime of the Vulnerable Tree debuff. And this is pretty useful because this adds a 30% modifier to damage done onto the boss. Nonowil herself does some decent damage as well. That's because I gave her the triple slash basic attack as well as 1000 Blades, which attack 3 times. So you can pair this off with anesthetic that lands 1 stack of infection per attack. So 3 attacks would do 3 stacks of infection, and the stacks of infection does supplement her damage as well. So it does count. In case why you're wondering why I use the Magician Turret, the main reason is because I don't really have that many turrets that I've leveled, and initially when I brought Nonowil, I was thinking of using her 1000 blades to AoE down the red minions that the boss can summon. But on play, I realized that it doesn't really do a lot of damage, and it's much easier to just knock back the red minions to their death. So don't use this turret, use another turret if you have it, but I don't really have that many useful turrets that provide some nice stats. So this is really a very subpar turret. Doesn't even provide physical attack, but you know, this is Nonoville isn't really one of the characters that I usually use anyway. So as long as she's there to apply vulnerable and land some infection, it's good enough for me. So that's it for the setup. With that said, I'll move on to the battle. The starting position is pretty important for a few reasons. First off, you want your lightning rod to the side because the side is the furthest away position from the boss, and the further away you are from the boss, the less damage you actually take from that attack. And to me, the left side is probably easier to position Maita versus the right. The other thing is that the first time the boss does the attack, it actually targets the two furthest enemy. Subsequent users will only target one furthest party member. So for this reason, I allow both Gloria and Maita to get hit. Why Gloria? Well, that's because Gloria isn't going to be hitting the boss outright. Her first two turns will be using the Longinus Brilliance, and then she'll be throwing down her spear. So she doesn't need to get in close to the boss, and the first few rounds she actually won't be taking any further damage beyond the first hit. So you don't have to hurry to heal Gloria from the start, which is useful because she's debuffed with now healing received. I quickly move up and try to get rid of the two red minions at the start before heading on to the boss, and notice that I placed the Flag of Convularia right from the start. This is pretty key. You do need the Flag of Convularia tactic because it gives a 12% boost to attack and defense, which is pretty huge. And importantly, it also restores 1 energy and reduces the cooldown by 1 to party members within range. Take note of the position that I placed the flag. You always want to place the flag there and nowhere else. That is the optimal position for the flag. You don't want it on the first two horizontal rows in front of the boss because it will get hit by the voltage shock and disappear. You want the flag to last until it's gone, as many rounds as possible. Placing it there also will mean that it's safe from all attacks from the boss, and it will never go down until it expires on its own naturally. The way to handle the voltage shock is the same as all prior stages. I won't go into detail for that, but you obviously don't want to have too many units hit. Letting an additional party member or two hit by the voltage shock isn't too bad because Cocoa can easily heal up your units. What's important is that once you have Gloria's lance down and the Sword of Convularia, you want to try to maximize uptime, smacking the boss as much as possible before this happens. So eventually the boss will knock back party members. This reason, you want to make sure that some party members who you don't want to be knocked back moves to the side. In this example, I moved Gloria. The rest you do actually want to get knocked back so that they are close to Maita, and Maita can heal them and buff them with her AoE heal. Just knock back all the minions, don't leave any of them up because their aura will kill you. 4 of the 5 party members that I use can knock back, so it's pretty easy. And you don't need to knock them back off the side. You can also knock them down the cliff at the bottom. They will also die that way. Then head back to the boss. Now, one quick note as I'm going through this cycle, I mentioned about the Flag of Convularia tactic. For this run, you'd want to have the talent that restores tactical points, TP points per round. That's because obviously eventually the Flag of Convularia will run out, and once it's out you want to quickly resummon a new one in its place. The flag takes 350 energy, so you want to invest enough talent points to have enough initial TP and enough TP regen per turn so that you can quickly resummon the next flag after the first one is gone. I did have a little bit of downtime. I sort of had slightly below 350 TP when the first flag ended. So a little bit of downtime isn't a problem, but obviously the longer you are without the flag, the less damage you do to the boss. So I'm up to the next cycle. One of the red minions is below the cliff, but that's okay because Maita can knock it down. Make sure Maita is at least 2 tiles away from the ledge because the boss will knock her back by 2 tiles. The rest of the minions should be easy. As always, I just knock them back. Energy isn't a problem because I have Gloria to restore energy and the flag of Convalaria. As the battle progresses, you want to constantly check the buffs that are on your party members. Always try to have 5 or more buffs. It's actually not that difficult to maintain. What I do is also give Ravia the Convalaria leader aura that will increase Maita's defense and Ravia's defense and attack, which is also quite important because the leader aura itself counts as 1 buff. Beyond that, it shouldn't be too easy to get 5 or more buffs all the time, as long as you just periodically check the buffs that you have and refresh the buff from Cocoa's Iron Pot. If need be, you can also use Cocoa's Snow Lotus that applies 2 buffs on the selected party member. So just check the buffs that you have. The 2 key important party members to have 5 or more buffs would be Nono Wheel and Ravia because those are my 2 main DPS. So I've just re-summoned my second Sword of Convalaria flag. So, and this is where I put down Gloria's Spear, so this is where I try to put out as much damage as possible. The round before this, I actually skipped using Ravia's Tropical Cyclone. That's because the flag and the spear wasn't down. So using it here does 12k damage, which would be significantly more without the buffs. Here I had pretty poor positioning, and unfortunately the red minions are at a very bad positioning as well. Ravia now is the furthest enemy from the boss and she will get one-shotted by the boss. So I had no choice but to use Maneuver Command on Maita to move her back so that the boss will target Maita instead. Ideally, you don't want to use Maneuver Command at all. It is there only as the emergency button, such as in this scenario. That's because Maneuver Command will eat your TP points and doesn't actually contribute to the damage that you do. As much as possible, you want to prioritize saving your TP points for the Flag of Convalaria, and the only exception is on round 15. To 3-star this stage, you need to complete within 15 rounds. On round 15, you wouldn't have enough TP points to summon the Flag of Convalaria. What I did here is to use Warhorn, which is the intermediate talent or tactic in this stage. And on round 15, using it will give you the required last oomph to take down the boss and get your 3-star victory. I had to make do without Inanna. I did try a couple of runs with Inanna to heal off my party, but the problem is I don't have a good debuffer. Ideally, what you want is to also have a physical defense down debuff on the boss that will greatly increase the damage that you do. A lot of people tend to use the Outlaw Guard, the Defender Outlaw, because he does carry attack and defense 2 down debuffs. So that is certainly a very good option, but I don't have him built. Alternative option also is you can use the Papal State Defender, the Papal Guard over Maita. Papal Guard is a very good lightning rod because she can use a skill to grant herself a physical shield. So if you don't have Maita built, that is an option. So I'm very close to the end of the battle. This is I think round 14 or round 15. So at this point you want to try to go all out to kill off the boss. Only clear the red minions if it's convenient to do so. Otherwise try to take down the boss as quickly as possible. I couldn't kill off the red minion on the top left, I just decided to go for the boss. And because of that, Maita got one-shotted by the boss here and I had to let it go. But that's okay, you can lose 1 unit. And here I'm at round 15, I use Warhorn and kill off the boss before the voltage triggers. That's it, hope this video helps and thanks for watching.